So with 2017 ending, I thought I would sit back and reflect on the greatest games that came out this year. And do keep in mind, I'm only going to be talking about games I have already played. I have not played these games, and I'm only like 10 hours in on this game, which in the big scheme of things isn't very much. So just don't get upset in the comments and type, well, Alpharad, why isn't Persona 5 number 1 on your list? Just know, it's okay. So just realize that most of these games I have played on my channel, and some of these games I didn't finish on my channel or didn't even play at all on my channel. And just realize, that can still happen. I can play through games on my own time. As a kid, my parents did not let me stray away from Nintendo very much. I played my educational learning games, I played my Mario, and I played my Pokemon, and that was about it. So when Crash Bandicoot came out on the PlayStation systems, I never really got around to that. So it wasn't until the Insane Trilogy came out when I really got to experience Crash Bandicoot for the first time. And even though it sounds weird to throw a remake on a top 10 list, I really enjoyed playing through this game. Crash Bandicoot was a really fun game. It's that kind of game that isn't really bullshit, but it feels like bullshit because you keep dying, but it only makes you want to do it more. Like, none of the deaths feel undeserved. You're just kind of like, well, should have avoided that. And then you know next time, and then you avoid it, and it's perfect. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of infuriating fun. That's just the best way to put it. So even though this isn't actually a game in its own right, Kaze, a notorious Mario 64 modder, released Super Mario 64 Online. On top of putting a remake on this list, it feels even weirder putting a mod on the list, but this was so damn fun. I did make a video over this, but I played so much more off camera with my friends. It's so weird how it's still the same game, but it has so much new life in it. Playing as different characters is fun enough, but playing with new characters and your friends is just an experience that's been unrivaled. Mario 64 is an incredible game in its own right, but this mod just brought a lot of life back into it. So if you have not played this, I highly suggest it. It is free to do. Just do a quick YouTube search and you can probably just find the instructions on how to do it. VR chat, baby. This is one of those games that you can play so much and you don't know if you're playing it ironically yet. There's really not much to say about this game. I planned on making one video for it, and then I made another, and then another, and I've already recorded a few more. It's pretty wild, honestly. Even if you aren't into roleplay and stuff like me, like, I'm not into that kind of stuff. It's just fun to go on with your friends and have it just kind of happens. In terms of the videos, I never really tried too hard to make anything happen. All those videos just kind of wrote themselves. There are so many interesting characters and interactions that happen, and it's barely even a game. It's just a chat room, but having customizable avatars and just the areas make it so much more potent for mishaps and shenanigans, I assume. But either way, VR chat is terrible. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle was probably one of the strangest games that I have seen ever in the existence of video games. This game goes for a very stylized XCOM type format, which for Mario is very weird, and for Rabbids is even weirder. So Nintendo just handed off their IP to Ubisoft and they just went rampant with it. Seeing Mario with a gun is kind of weird in its own right, and then seeing him with the gun alongside Rabbids is just bizarre. Even just a collaboration of Mario and Rabbids. Like, I kind of hate that this is on my list because Rabbids, gross, ew, they're the minions of video games, but the game was just so good. Dylan and I played through the entire game on Friends Without Benefits, and then I went and played through it on my own time. The game's good as hell. If I was more into these type of games, this would probably be a lot higher on my list, because I really can't point out very many things this game did poorly. It was just a fun experience all in all. At first, it just seems like an action RPG with a cute girl. Yeah, that's it. But then you play more, and you're like, wow, there is some endings to this game. Multiple endings. And then you realize, holy hell, there's a shit ton of endings. This game is an adventure, so I really don't want to talk about it in too much detail, because a lot of the story just kind of unfolds in front of you. So let's just move on to the next one. Doki Doki Literature Club. This game took everyone by storm. Visual novel is not that popular of a category, but people went fucking bonkers over this game. Dan Salvato, the creator of the game, actually hit me up a couple months before the game came out and said, "Hey, will you play this?" And I felt so bad because I got so busy. I had a lot of personal things come up, and I had to delay the videos, and we just played on FWAB in the end. But boy, I do regret not playing it earlier. This game was a roller coaster of emotions, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. This game is a psychological horror that masks itself as a visual novel in a high school literature club. You have 4 girls that you all get to know pretty well, and I'm sure most of you guys know how this game pans out, but again, this is a game that only takes about 4 to 6 hours, and it is for free download on Steam and on DDLC's website. But I'll just say, the first 2 hours of this game are pretty slow, which kind of knocks it down on my list, but the rest of the game, well, yeah, play Doki Doki Literature Club. Some people I know were affected by it much more than I was. I just thought it was, that was interesting. But a lot of people talk about how it really brought out their anxiety and depression. So that might be something to consider if those heavily affect you. So think about yourself first, but after that step, just realize it's a very fun adventure. This game is like the Dark Souls. Cuphead is a game I've been following here and there for about 3 years now. And at some point, you just say, maybe this game's never gonna come out. And then bam, it does. Takes everyone by storm, from the music, from the animation. Okay, you know, I said Nier has the best music of this game. I'm gonna take it back. Actually, Cuphead is absolutely neck and neck with Nier, for completely different reasons. Nier had this very dark soundtrack that felt so epic in the dark tones of the game. But then Cuphead's soundtrack just felt so excitable. Every single level, you felt the excitement that the game developers wanted you to feel. And I haven't even touched on the overall aesthetic of the game. Pulling from 1930s cartoons is incredible. It's a very difficult challenge. And the fact that most of it's just hand-drawn blows my mind. Shit is not done like that anymore. By anymore, I mean really ever. There's never really been a time period in video games where it's all hand-drawn like it was in cartoons. So just the fact that they decided to do that brought a lot more life into the game. And honestly, I think it shows. People went crazy over this game. Despite the difficulty curve, this game took me about 4 hours to beat. I wish it was longer simply because I didn't want it to end. But even though the game's only a few hours long, I still enjoyed it more than I have most games this year. And honestly, this game is so damn cheap. If you want to convert it to an hourly rate, you pay about $5 an hour for the entertainment, and that is by far worth. There are some games worth $60 where I don't get that turnaround. And hell, there are even games worth $40 where I don't get that turnaround. So now we're gonna hop into Sonic Mania. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I didn't really write a script for this. I felt like it would be a lot more candid if I just talked, you know, spur of the moment. I don't want to have like this forced top 10. I just want to be genuine with it. And this game is a really easy one to be genuine with. If you watched my Sonic Mania videos, you know how I feel about this game. I loved it. It was so good. Somehow, Sega found people who make better Sonic games than Sonic Team. It's crazy. I will say, Mario Odyssey had a younger team on it, Breath of the Wild had a younger team on it, Sonic Mania had a younger team on it, Sonic Forces didn't. Do what you want with that information, I'm just putting it out there, and no, Breath of the Wild is not on my top 10 list. Sonic Mania was pretty much the best Sonic game I've played in over a decade. And I know a lot of people like to point out this game and that game, like, these games were good, sure, but Sonic Mania was by far the best one I've played in years. We saw a lot of repeat levels from previous Sonic games, but the new worlds we saw were beautiful. Studiopolis Zone was by far my favorite one, and it was just stunning. And oh my god, the music was so good. Oh, I've already talked about Cuphead and Nier, but Sonic Mania had such incredible music too. The zones were so inspired, all the bosses were so good. Even the story. None of the cutscenes were too long, but they explained so much. And then the story even led up to Sonic Forces, which I don't really know why I did that. I wish we had more games like Sonic Mania. This game was absolutely just a breath of fresh air. This is a game that's not seen any love on my channel yet, because I have been playing it in my own personal time. I think I played Xenoblade 1 in about 2013, and I was like, wow, this is the greatest game I've ever played. And then Shulk got announced for Smash 4, and I said, wow, this is the greatest trailer I've ever seen. Then he came out for Smash 4, and I go, wow, this is the worst character I've ever seen, and dropped him like a rock. Then they started teasing on another game, and I was like, wow, this is going to be great. And then I just could not get into this game for any reason whatsoever. But then Xenoblade 2 came out and I was hyped. They did change a lot of things in it, which are some for the better, some for the worse. I got mixed opinions on a lot of this game, and that could be a video in its own right, honestly. Most people don't have the time to beat this game in even a few weeks. So if you want a JRPG to just dive into, go ahead. Play Xenoblade 2. Just know you're getting into a huge-ass adventure. Somehow, something I failed to mention in the previous games is the characters. The other games I've talked about, they never really had any standout characters. The story was never really the selling point of the game. I mean, there was Nier, but okay. In this game, you just get a party of so many lovable characters. And on top of that, they have so many blades that have personalities that range from Pyra to her alter ego to even Poppy. And above all else, there's so much more. This game is kind of hard to sell to people because not everyone's into JRPGs. So let me say this. I'm not into JRPGs. They are not my cup of tea. But this game captivated me in the first one and it's captivated me yet again in the sequel. And it's also kind of hard to say, hey, if you got 90 hours to spare, try this game out. Because not everyone has that time. I barely have that time. I've been working on videos and then play this game on my own time at night. It's like I'm picking up a second job just to play a stupid video game. The only thing that really prevents this game from being my #1 game of the year is just the convoluted controls. Which I know the controls start to make more sense as the game progresses, but that shouldn't be how it is. If the game's gonna focus on story, it should at least make the controls somewhat intuitive. There are so many things that can only happen when you do this, and those things only happen if you do that, and those things only, etc., and the cycle just keeps going on. Xenoblade 2 is a masterpiece. After you get past all the tutorials and after you play the game for about 20 hours, then it's a masterpiece. But before that, yeah, it's kind of alright. Who is surprised that Mario Odyssey is in my #1? I love the hell out of this game. I had a series dedicated to me just gushing on the game for like 8 episodes. Mario Odyssey was fucking incredible. I love 3D platformers, and I know Hat in Time came out, but it just didn't click with me. For some reason, I just couldn't get into this game like I did Mario Odyssey. I love 3D platformers, but they just do not come out often. And when they do come out, they just don't come out good enough. When Mario Odyssey came out, I played the game and I recorded so many episodes before I even edited them because I just wanted to keep playing. Then when the series was done, I said, you know what? I want to speedrun this game, and I did. I peaked at about 41st on the leaderboards, and then I stopped playing for a while, so now I'm probably, yikes. Each world had its own currency, had its own life, had its own ecosystem, and each had their own species, pretty much. Or race, or nationality, whatever. Everything in this game was just so varied. Like, no matter what you came into this game for, you got it. I loved this game, and then I got to Metro Kingdom, and I think that's when I truly fell in love with it. Honestly, I don't think a game actually comes close to Mario Odyssey, because there has never, ever been a game for me that has made me so obsessive with it, where I say, you know what, I'm gonna 100% this game, but not just that. Here's the thing, I have 100% of games before, but in 4 days? Usually when I 100% a game, it's because I'm bored and have nothing better to do. In this scenario, it was because I had an overwhelming desire to do so. Some parts of the game are a little slow, yes, I understand. Lost Kingdom wasn't very fun on my first playthrough. The stupid fucking volleyball minigame was not fun on any playthrough ever, but the rest of the game was magical. Above all else, the juxtaposition of these kingdoms were phenomenal. Look, you got to hang out at a beach, and then the exact next world was a frozen cavern. Look, you go from colorful ass luncheon with this stupid cross-eyed bird to a real ass dragon. You can talk about this game in all of its merits, but something people do not comment on enough is just how genius the worlds are at subverting your expectations. Above all else, this game had the best movement I've played. I'm sure a lot of games come close to this, but I loved how this game just encouraged you to explore. In a lot of other Mario games, you kind of get to some areas and you're like, whoa, I am not supposed to be here. But in Mario Odyssey, you think you're going to that place, and then you see some coins, and those coins are just kind of like a message from the developers that are like, hey fucker, I knew you were going to get up here. We already did this. We saw it through. Do you think you're original by going up here? That's cute. So it's just the subtle nods like that make me realize, wow, they thought of everything. Well, okay, maybe not everything, but they thought about a lot. So much heart went into this game. You can say whatever you want about this game, but you cannot say that heart did not go into this. 2017 was honestly probably the best year we've had for gaming in several years. Anyways, video games are great. Video games are fun. Be sure to subscribe and watch more Alpharad next year because guess what? We're going to be playing a lot more video games.